It all began with the constant double standards, what fans and analysts celebrate in one quarterback. They criticize and his confidence becomes arrogance. His composure becomes detachment. The same fire that makes others leaders becomes a target on his back. Cam Newton, a man who knows what it's like to live under the blinding light of scrutiny, couldn't stay silent any longer. In a recent conversation, Newton called out what he called a circus of hypocrisy surrounding Shedeur. He reminded everyone that the same boldness people admire in players like Jackson Dart or Baker Mayfield is the same quality that gets twisted into negativity when it's coming from Shadur Sanders. Newton's words weren't just commentary, they were a mirror held up to the media, forcing everyone to confront how narratives are often shaped less by truth and more by bias. Newton's frustration runs deeper than football. He pointed out that what Shadur is facing isn't normal, it's calculated. He said Shedeur might be the first fifth-round third-string quarterback in NFL history to attract this much attention and this much emotion from fans. That kind of following makes the establishment uncomfortable, because when fans start to rally behind a player like that, it shifts power away from the usual channels, away from teams, owners, and even networks, and into the hands of the people. Newton believes that's what the NFL fears most. This isn't about one player's skill anymore, it's about narrative control. Shadur's rise represents something the system can't manage: authenticity. Every time Shadur steps onto the field, the reactions are magnified to extremes. A simple celebration becomes showboating. A quiet moment becomes disengagement. Newton described it best: no matter what Shadur does, it's always critique, always framed as something to dissect rather than understand. It's a cycle that feels deeply personal. Newton sees it as a larger effort to discredit Sanders before his story can fully unfold. And when a man like Cam, who's lived through years of media storms, calls it out, it forces people to look at how patterns repeat. But the tension doesn't just live in headlines, it's creeping into the locker room. 2. Dillon Gabriel, the man currently holding the starting quarterback spot in Cleveland, recently made comments that didn't go unnoticed. On social media, Gabriel downplayed the support Shadur's been getting, implying that while some people may rally behind the young quarterback, he himself is focused on the team. It was a subtle jab, but one that said everything. Beneath the professionalism lies something fragile, a hint of rivalry, of unease. Gabriel's statement, disguised as composure, seemed more like a warning shot. It wasn't an outright attack, but it carried the kind of undertone that reminds everyone just how fine the line is between competition and conflict. And then came the voices from the media world, the ones who live in the intersection between truth and spectacle. Stephen A. Smith, never one to hold back, urged Shedeur to fully grasp the magnitude of his position. He said that being Deion Sanders' son means living under a spotlight brighter than most could ever imagine. Every move Shadur makes will be magnified, every decision will be analyzed, and every mistake will echo louder than it should. Stephen A. wasn't condemning him, he was warning him. The fame, the lineage, the expectations, their blessings and curses all at once. The higher the pedestal, the harder the fall. Ryan Clark, another former player turned analyst, took that message further. He didn't sugarcoat the reality. He told Shadur point-blank that life isn't fair, and it never will be for someone like him. Everything he does will be twisted, spun, or criticized. Every smile will be analyzed. Every silence will be interpreted. Clark's advice was simple but powerful. Don't run from it. Own it. Be transparent. Be real. And don't give the media room to invent your story. He said if Shedeur learns to control his narrative, he can transform the scrutiny into strength. Because silence, in this kind of world, isn't peace, it's permission for others to define you. And that's the heart of the problem. For every young athlete like Shedeur, the challenge isn't just performance. It's survival in a media ecosystem that thrives on tearing down what it builds up. When he plays well, it's dismissed as luck or hype. When he struggles, it becomes proof that he was overrated. No matter what he does, he can't win, at least, not in the court of public opinion. That's why voices like Newton, Stephen A., and Clark matter. They've lived it. They know what it means to be misunderstood for simply being unapologetically yourself. Yet beyond the criticism and controversy, there's something poetic about how this story is unfolding. The more they try to control Shadur Sanders, the more uncontainable his influence becomes. The same scrutiny meant to box him in is now fueling his legend. Fans are beginning to see through the noise. They see a young man under immense pressure, refusing to break. They see a player who doesn't hide behind PR statements or generic quotes. He's real, sometimes too real for an industry built on polish and pretense. And that's exactly what makes him dangerous to the system that tries to keep him in line. Still, the weight he carries is immense. Being Deion Sanders' son means expectations that stretch beyond the field. It's a legacy that demands perfection and punishes humanity. But Shadur's greatest strength might be his refusal to play by those rules. He doesn't need to mimic anyone. He's not trying to be the next primetime star. He's simply trying to be himself. And that's what terrifies people the most. Because authenticity doesn't ask for permission. It just exists. As this season unfolds, one truth becomes clearer. Shadur Sanders is standing at a crossroads. One path leads to silence, the safe route, where he lets the narrative shape itself. The other leads to defiance, where he takes control of the story and forces the world to see him as he is, not as they imagine him to be. The choice will define him not just as a player, but as a person. The noise isn't going away. The criticism isn't going to stop. But greatness has never come easy for those destined to change the game. So now, the world waits not just to see how Shadur Sanders plays, but how he responds. Because every legend, every icon, reaches that breaking point where talent meets pressure and character meets chaos. And when that moment comes, how he handles it will determine everything. What about you? Do you think Shadur Sanders is handling the pressure the right way? Is the media being too harsh? Or is this just part of the price of fame? Should he fight back harder, or let his game speak for itself? And how much of this storm really comes from being Deion Sanders' son? Drop your thoughts below.